Welcome to RevCast, a Civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. Elthrasher, Duke Blue, 1987. Hold on. Well, oops. I've totally clicked on the wrong link. Anyway, I am lead co-host, elthrasher, and with me is Duke Blue 1987. It's just two of us for the first time ever, and the cause for that is some minor scheduling issues, and we're just going to see how it goes. We're also going to try something slightly different today. We're going to give you some good advice, but then we're also going to talk about the CivRev tournament scene, which is really heating up lately, and we're going to analyze some games, and we're going to talk about some of Duke's YouTube games, because he's posting games on YouTube now in nice high definition. Before we go into all that, let's talk about how you got to become a permanent co-host on RevCast. What happened?
Well, first off, hey guys, Duke here. And I guess I am the permanent co-host due to, I don't know, lack of...
No, it's because you won that stupid game, Germans versus Mongols. Now you have to do it.
I guess a victory over Thrasher. The victory condition was that I became the permanent co-host on RevCast. So obviously beats any type of monetary prize or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, you would just spend it on something stupid. But here, this is going to last forever. This YouTube channel that you've started. Really enjoyed watching and being featured in those games.
I think you beat me every game I posted.
You've only posted one with me so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've started a YouTube channel based solely around CivRev for now. You can find it at YouTube/DukeBlue1987, all one word. Picked up a capture card and I just record through my headset and record in full 720 high definition. Personally, I think it looks great, so I know I've got a lot of good feedback about it.
It does. You can look at it in full screen and really see what's happening there. You've got some games where you're adding commentary later.
Yep, some games I do a voiceover commentary, kind of talk about some strategy or really whatever I want to. Try to keep it interesting. Some games I actually record myself while I play the game, considered like a live commentary, and post that over the video. Little bit different point of view, because I can kind of talk about what I'm thinking at the time rather than going back and trying to think about what strategy I was trying to use. And then I think I just put up a video where I put some music to the background and speed it up, trying to get creative, do some different things. Basically just want you guys to enjoy it, so feel free to check out the channel. Don't always post my best games, but try to post the exciting ones.
I think you actually have lost the majority of these games. Just looking at the list now. The tournament scene, we just finished off a mammoth tournament. The ending was a little disappointing for me in that I kind of blew it there at the end.
I thought it ended up pretty well.
Yeah, I know you do. We were in a best of 5. I had some better civs. I totally wasted the Aztecs against your Japanese, winning in like 3 moves, which was hardly a victory at all because you threw away a totally stupid civ against my Aztecs. My other victory was Spanish against Greeks, which again, that's not even close to fair. So it wasn't a good time to use those matchups. I lost as the Arabs to your Russians.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think my Russians won. I vaguely remember any game except for the last one.
Should not have happened. We were close to each other, and I settled when I probably should have ran because I didn't have gold, and you just walked into my capital. So that was a pretty poor tactical situation. I feel like there's a game that I'm not too ashamed of losing.
Yeah.
Your English against my Indians. In that one, I think I would have had a good chance, except I left my capital empty a little too long, and you scooted up, galloped in with a horseman, just one horseman.
I think I actually won like a 2 versus 2.5, didn't I?
Maybe that was what happened. Maybe I was...
I think you had a warrior in there, and I attacked with a non-vet horse, and...
The capital was next to a hill. I do remember that. So
maybe it was a warrior that attacked. I think a vet warrior attacked off a hill, 2 versus 2.
I think it was a horse.
Was it I don't know. It was something.
Then it would be 3 to 2.5.
It could be it.
And then you rushed a bunch of longbow archers in there, and there was just no way I was going to get in. But I tried, which was probably stupid. Wasted a lot of time there, and then that let you run away with the game.
And then the last game was... My dreaded Mongols versus your Germans, where we settled pretty close, which is normally bad for the Mongols, especially because the Germans get the vet warriors. But I had a critical hill that I was able to control, so it was basically...
Strategic hill.
We were attacking 4.5 versus 4.5, and... We went back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't think actually anybody won for the odds battle.
A lot of even ones.
We split a lot, and because I ended up getting like 4 or 5 barb huts, I got some extra warriors out and was able to grind it out.
I got only 1, which gave me 30 gold, so that was pretty bad.
That was like the longest game we've ever played that I don't think I built any unit other than a warrior.
Yeah, well, I didn't build anything other than warriors. No, we just built galleys.
Oh, okay. So galleys and warriors, and this game took probably 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, I tried to galley drop you at one point or something like that. And actually, I think right there at the end, I don't know. Then I attacked your galley with mine when I was just kind of like, I'm losing, blah. and I did that. And I think if I hadn't done that, then I still had a chance after you killed my last warrior army. I think I still had a chance to try to galley drop you.
I know you got a March warrior army at one point.
Twice.
Twice?
I got 2 of them, but they both died, so... Anyway, that was fun. We're doing it again now.
A little bit different format. Just for those of you that don't know, the first format we played 8-person brackets, and if you beat your opponent, you moved on to the next round, and then the finals. We had 8 of those brackets, and then the winner of those 8 brackets went into the championship bracket, and that's what me and Thrasher were talking about. We made it to the end of the championship bracket, where we played a best of 5.
Yep. The rule was that you couldn't reuse any civ. We didn't actually have a total of 64 players because people, when eliminated from one bracket, could move on to the next, but I bet there were quite a few.
I bet we had maybe 40 players, 40 unique players, I would think.
This stuff is still happening, even though the game has been out for we're coming up on 3 years now, and the official Civilization Revolution website is still talking about, I just learned today, is still talking about the patch that will be released in October of 2008.
They're obviously well on their way with that.
It was in fact released then, and we were very grateful, but we wish there'd be another one. We have 2 brackets happening right now. Duke's running one of them, and I'm running the other one, which means that we're not playing in the same bracket, but who knows what will happen.
A little bit different format this time. Instead of going head-to-head matchups, we're doing round-robin. We have 6-man brackets this time, and you play everybody else in your bracket 2 games for a total of 10 games, because there's 5 other players. And we are not allowing any of the power civs, America, China, Zulu, and also Spain, Aztec, and Arabs, which leaves you with what is widely considered the 10 worst civs, or any civ that I haven't mentioned.
And you have 10 games to play, so you play each civ once, which is a pretty cool way for it to work out.
And then the top 2 players, or I guess most wins, advance and play, I think it's a best of 5 to see who wins the bracket.
Yeah, something like that. So we do very much encourage listeners to come over to the 2K Games Forum and participate. If you're not totally up to a real challenging game just yet, there are a lot of people who will be happy to help you learn to play a little bit better. They're very aggressive games a lot of the time.
Expect a lot of Horse Armies.
It's fun, and we like creating more challenging opponents, which is why we do this. Come to the forum, sign up for the tournament, and get some training. There'll be more brackets, so you can bomb out of one and then be in the next one. I don't know that I'm certainly not guaranteed to win the bracket I'm in. I think Mawpock is actually running away with it. He was one of the 4 finalists in the last big tournament. That guy just keeps getting better and better. I beat him recently, but I think he was experimenting. I think if he'd stuck with the tried and true, I don't know if I would have won that game. We can probably go on to some stuff we've been working on here in the RevCast laboratories. There's a tactic that I guess it disappointed Duke in a fairly recent game, which is that when you're in your horse wars, the last thing you want is someone else's horse army to get the drop on you, because horse army will almost always kill horse army. You will rarely win that lucky,
9 versus 6 or something.
9 to 6 or 6 to 4.5 or something like that. But generally, somebody attacks you, you're gone.
That's a big investment to lose to 60 hammers in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, 2 tiles away from your capital. It's pretty bad. So what we try to do is cover up our horse armies with a defensive unit, and then that unit will take the hit. It works out that way. The game's designed so that a unit that is primarily defensive but actually has a lower defensive value will take the hit, thereby protecting your offensive unit, which is, what you want. It's really strange, though, that in cities it's completely different. If you're in a city, you can't game it like this. It's just whatever has the highest defense value will always take the hit.
If it's a tie, I think it still goes to the defensive units, though.
Yes, that's true. But the moral of that story is that you never want your horse army to linger in a city for very long, because it's not going to work out for you.
It's also not smart just to have your horse army sitting on, say, a grassland tile with nothing protecting it. You usually want like a archer or militia or warrior on the same tile. There's definitely unique rules that go with each unit, and we spent about an hour and a half trying to figure this out.
It's like an hour and a half. We think we've got it. We're not sure. So if other people have theories on here, please let us know.
And I don't think this is very well known, because there's been some speculation on the 2K forums, I know, but we've proved some of it to be true and some of it to be false. So it's kind of a unique set of circumstances.
The original incident was that Duke was playing a game, and he put a warrior on a tile with his horse army, expecting the warrior to take the hit, and then his horse army is free to retaliate. What ended up happening was that his horse army was attacked. So the question was why? Because this works a lot of the time. If you find the Knights Templar, you go, oh, look, there's a city. So you drop off the Knights Templar and militia, and somebody attacks, and the militia takes the hit most of the time. Why sometimes? Why not all the time? It seems like what happens is generally that it takes a vet warrior or something with some kind of defensive bonus to defend a veteran horse army. But if it's a non-veteran horse army, then anything will defend it. We didn't actually check this out with the Knights Templar, but I bet the Knights Templar would... Well,
I think it counts as a single unit. I've got a kind of list here I can run through. First off, archers, or I would assume pikemen, riflemen, modern infantry. Any type of purely defensive unit, if it's on the same tile as a horse army, it will always take the hit first. 100% of the time, doesn't matter what type of tile or anything, it's always going to take the hit, I believe. It's a little bit different for warriors and militia. For a warrior, a non-vet warrior can defend a non-vet horse army. However, a non-vet warrior cannot defend a vet horse army, and this is kind of where the confusion came in, and it took us a while to figure this out. At first we thought it had to do with the terrain you're on, but it turns out that the tile, if you're grass, plains, hill, it makes no difference whatsoever. Basically, if you're trying to defend a veteran offensive unit or offensive army, you need to have a defensive modifier for your warrior, and the only two things that could be are veteran status, or if your offensive army has a great general, it adds 50% to anything on the tile, so that also works.
We haven't figured all this out. It's just too strange. The point is that you need a veteran warrior, basically.
Because great generals don't come into play, probably less than 1% of games. I don't think we mentioned this, which makes a big difference and is probably just as confusing, but this is only on the same turn. If you fortify a unit and then it goes to the next turn, they'll get the plus 50% fortifying bonus, then it'll always take that defensive unit, no matter if it's a warrior, archer, or militia.
And the other thing about this is that even if your opponent has overrun, that unit will still take the hit.
Right.
Potentially be not that useful, because if they overrun your guy, then they can attack again immediately. But it might give you the split second to either get out of the way or counterattack or something like that. Horse Wars, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm on top of the world, and other times I feel like, why do I play this stupid game?
It's probably one of the single most important factors to beating top competition in this game.
It really is.
You have to be good with horses, or else your opponent's going to kill you with their horses, or at least make life miserable for you. Yeah, just to clarify, I'll post something on the 2K forums. We'll double-check the great general rules and put up an exact list of what does work and what doesn't work.
We had what I thought was a very instructive game. It was just a random player match game, but you put that up. It was my Aztecs against your Egypt, and I think we both had really good starts in that game, and we did have a horse war, but we were far enough from one another that it ended up developing into a longer game.
Yeah, you came with 3 horse armies.
I did.
And I was able to fend them off because I had a blitz horse army, a whole lot of archers, and key great artist.
Once you flipped one of my armies, I definitely had to retreat. But then we kind of both just went off and expanded a lot, and I think the really key thing was that even though I had lost 2 of my armies in my initial attack, while I was attacking, I was taking up to Code of Laws, you were building archers, and that gave me a few turns head start, and so I feel like that turned into a lead for me.
I think I caught up because you had tech navigation,
You caught up.
which was a little bit out of your way.
I went too far out of my way. I grabbed too many nice-to-have techs. I delayed democracy for like 8 to 10 turns or something like that, also because I wanted to attack you some more. So basically, I almost gave the game away because when you're in a tight, tough game, you can't mess around. You have to go after the really important techs, and you can't be like, ooh, construction, I've got a hill here, so if I get construction, then I'll have, 1 extra production. Who cares? You don't need that. Expand, you have to get into democracy, you have to get banking, you have to get university, and you have to get bombers.
Or at least get industrialization.
Yeah, I was going to lose that game, but then your great scientist showed up in the wrong place.
And I was extremely slow on the buttons. You guys will have to watch it and see exactly what we're talking about, but it turned out to be a pretty cool game. I cut it off a little bit short because it was actually like a 3-hour game, but the last hour and a half was not very exciting at all.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you wanted to watch my fighters, because I had Oxford for fighters since he got to industrialization first, and my fighters didn't really do much. Probably, looking back, I probably should have tried to tech to combustion. That might have been a better chance, but who knows? Hard to say. Another game up on my channel against Tyshine's French. It was my Germans. What was the Xbox Live account he was using? Austin is Real, I believe?
Austin is Real.
And I think the video is titled Germans versus French or something of that nature.
Germans versus French.
It was actually a pretty cool video to watch. I certainly don't play my best, but I posted it because it was a pretty good game, I thought.
It's kind of amazing.
For those of you that don't know Tyshine, personally I consider him one of the best Civ Rev players that still currently plays.
He's also a former co-host on this show.
Right, yeah. That too. So you guys definitely know who he is.
They never miss an episode, so they know who he is.
But yeah, I play against him, and I actually didn't know it was him at the time because it was under another username.
He quit the game, said, I can't play anymore, I'm giving away my Xbox, and then comes sneaking back with this Austin is Real, whatever that means, account.
Actually, the game before that we played this, he puts all of his workers on balanced and quits the game to make me feel like he's not a very good player. And then the next game, he's the French, I'm the Germans. I get the arrows for fundamentalism. We start pretty close, and he wins a 4.5, 2.5 at his cap, which I would have won, but he ends up winning that. We both get really slow starts. I end up taking the Arab cap for fundamentalism, but instead of using that, I decided I wanted to kind of expand to get to medieval to get the extra tree hammer bonus from the Germans, and my plan was to come and kill him with elite fundy legions, which would have been more than enough. I was hoping to get maybe 4 or 5 armies. And Tyshine, he was the French, didn't get a cap, never got his 100 gold.
He expanded out of Paris once. He built 1 extra city.
Yeah, he got 1 city. He did get the School of Confucius, which gave him an artist, which was extremely helpful. But he managed to get 2 legion armies to me, flipped the city, got a drop in off of a boat.
But he got another artifact, too.
Oh, yeah.
This is maybe why he's a better player than me. He got the Knights Templar. What did he do with it?
He sells it.
He sold it so he could buy a Legion because the Knights Templar was too far away and it was going to help him. Oh my god.
So he comes on another galley, and for me, I think he just got the Knights Templar. He's on a galley. I have to defend in case he drops it off. Turns out that was a second galley without the Knights Templar, so I'm over there defending against that galley that has absolutely nothing in it.
It had an archer.
I had an archer that he got a drop in.
Yeah, he dropped in one of your cities.
Flips a city, gets a 9 versus 9 win with a Legion army, and all of a sudden he's got 3 of my 5 cities. And he's the French without his 100 gold. It's actually pretty amazing to watch.
The thing is that he hits you at just exactly the right time, and he hits you from 2 different directions.
Right.
And it just causes absolute pandemonium. It's clear that you have no good response to this, and it's only going to get worse. Before that happened, anyone would have said he was losing.
Oh, yeah. Before that turn, anyone would have given me a 90% chance of winning, if not more.
Yeah.
Germans with Fundy. I got 5 cities. He doesn't have his 100 gold. He doesn't seem to be doing much. And then within 2 turns, the game's over. Pretty amazing on his part.
And from my perspective, the only really bad mistake you made, except for maybe being a little too ostentatious, and did you really need 5 cities in that game?
Right.
Probably not. The only real mistake that I saw you make in terms of just like a technical mistake is you didn't switch into fundamentalism.
Immediately would have been correct.
Until it was too late.
Yeah.
Because in fundamentalism, you would have had a better chance of fighting back. You wouldn't have needed armies.
Wouldn't have needed to heal in between turns. I ended up switching to fundamentalism as he was attacking me, which I don't know if it was the right call or not, but it cost me a whole turn of production.
Yeah, it was almost over by that point anyway. I had a really great game in this tournament now against Mopok. It was my Egypt against his Japan, and basically we both kind of blew it with our horse rushes, and so we both had to expand. And in this tournament, we're not allowed to use Oxford University to get bombers. We're not allowed to use it for anything. And so even though I had a good lead and I started getting into the money text, he came at me with Samurai Knights and fundamentalism and stuff like that. And we battled for a long time, went up to tanks. I think that his rush in that game was really good, but it wasn't quite good enough to stop me from getting to the money techs, and therefore, so I was in democracy, meaning 15 gold per city per turn, and basically that enabled me to hang on. We got battleships and bombers and fighters, and we teched all the way up to advanced flight to get bombers. Actually, he did, I didn't.
I'm sure you had flight to counter his bombers.
Yeah, I got flight before he had bombers, and I think the game ended in 1963 or something. It couldn't have been 62, 64.
Something crazy.
And I finally won with an economic victory after, he nuked me too. I mean, how often does that happen? I like to point this out. These games happen, but they only happen organically. We don't ever be like, let's play up to 1960 or something like that. A lot of the time, one person will just get too far ahead, and there's no point in playing that through. But
every once in a while,
when it happens, it's amazing. I mean, those games are so much fun. They can be nerve-wracking and nail biting and stuff like that. But
it always hurts a lot more to lose a game that you're 3 hours into than 5 minutes. It's like, oh, we'll just start another one.
That's true.
After 3 hours, it's like, man, I really want to win this game. I can't.
Yeah, that's true. I have to credit him, really, for putting up such a good fight. He actually got down to having 4 capitals, and my capital had only a great artist in it. He'd killed all the defenders, which sounds like he came really close to winning, but I also had 2 tank armies that were on the way that same turn, so I don't think he would have held it in any case. And then shortly after that, I took one of those capitals that he had, so it wasn't quite that close, but it was still really close, and I did win the economic victory instead of beating him up with superior numbers of units. I just didn't see any way that would end.
A lot of time those games end up in stalemates where you're just building units and nobody can push through because you simply can't get as many units as you want in one place because you can only rush 1 unit per city.
And I think he eventually had expanded more, and he took a bunch of AI cities once he got tanks. You can pretty much just roll through them and take all of them once you have tanks. So even though I had the money techs, he definitely could bring some production to bear.
Now, I'd like to get your opinion. Obviously, I wasn't playing that game, but if we hadn't have banned Oxford University, do you think the game would have gone that long, or would have it ended in bombers?
No way. I would have gotten bombers, and then what would he have done?
Right. I didn't know if it was going to be that close, or...
I would have had bombers while his night rush was happening.
Okay.
I would have used single bombers to kill every single one of his night armies, and then I would have gone over and taken his cities, just like that. We're talking about, when did I get industrialization? Probably well before 1000 AD, and the game went on to the 1960s, and so that's...
A lot of turns.
It's a lot of turns. After 1900, it's only 2 years per turn, so that's 30 turns just after 1900. The point when I got industrialization, if I could have built Oxford, within 5 turns or something like that pretty easily,
right,
that would have been really easy.
Oxford ends a lot of long games a little bit shorter than I think that we'd like. I mean, nobody wants to play a 3-hour game every time, but it's fun every once in a while, and Oxford is kind of a prohibitor of that, because if someone is even just a little bit has an edge going into the time when Oxford can be built, it usually almost always ends the game.
I'm a convert to banning that for these tournaments because it really gave Mopok a chance to get into the game and try to come back after failing to get to the money text first. It's interesting that my opinions about games keep evolving because 6 months ago I was saying if you have good production, if you have expanded well and stuff like that, go and rush them before Oxford. Go in there and put a stop to it. And I think that can work, but in this case it wouldn't have worked. I had the production saved up, I got the scientist, I was holding him off with the pikemen. He did end up getting 2 cities, I think, or maybe even 3, but he wouldn't have kept them for long.
It's really a game-by-game basis whether or not to go for knights and cruisers and industrialization. But
well, you should always go for industrialization.
The more I play, the night rush can hurt you a little bit more than it helps. Because if you don't kill him with your knights and the other player gets industrialization, you're in an uphill battle.
It's tough because the phases of the game are basically like horse rush at the beginning. Then, if that doesn't end the game, then you start expanding quickly. And once you're done expanding, and there might be a little give and take there might be a little pressure going on there. Then you go into democracy. If you've expanded properly and built a good foundation for your empire, as soon as you go into democracy, hell, you have bombers.
Ugh.
It is so fast.
And you could say, we'll just save up production and build Oxford before they get industrialization, but it's not always possible. And as soon as they get industrialization, they get so much gold per turn that they can rush Oxford within a few turns usually.
Yep.
So It's not always as simple as saying, just get flight or something.
Well, and flight doesn't win the game.
No.
We proved that in the game you've got up on YouTube.
Right.
Didn't have a Civ of the month. And that's in part because we'll run out of civs eventually, and we're trying to not run out of civs quite so fast. This is the show that's all about analyzing a few tournament games. Next show, we're going to talk about Game of the Week, which it seems like the Game of the Week crowd, I don't know if they're quite as big as the multiplayer crowd, but there are definitely some diehards in there.
I'd say it's at least 50%, if not more.
There's some skill there. That's not easy what they do.
That skill that I do not possess.
Yeah, I'm not that patient. We've never really featured that on RevCast, so we're going to do that next time. We're going to have Scotty X in here. He's also on the PlayStation side of things, and we haven't had a co-host that is primarily a PlayStation player since, I think, Eric Ball way back. That was even before I was on the show. So it's been a while. This has been RevCast with elthrasher and Duke Blue 1987. See you next time.
Later, guys.
But that didn't work. That was what confused me.
The non-vet warrior would defend the great general Horse Army.
No, it didn't.
Are you sure? Because I had it written down that it did.
Yeah, I think you wrote that down wrong.
The militia would defend the great general also, but it wouldn't defend the vet.
Yes.
We'll have to double check.
No, I'm pretty sure.
Are you there, or did I lose you?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm pulling up my list of units here. Should have had that ready. Did you hear that?
No.
Good. You can see how complicated it is, and you know what? You can actually absorb what we're saying here. I don't know how, but if you did, you maybe get a team of experts to parse all this.
For more information about RevCast, sibling shows PolyCast and Modcast, or about PolyCast in general, log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net. Record date February 20th, 2011.
Civilization Revolution sound clips copyright Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.